so many Democrats seemingly on the side of the bad guys? I mean, you've seen the massive, violent protests in Iran. They turned off the internet there for 5 days, restricting speech, restricting the flow of information. And yet, crickets from Ilhan Omar, AOC and company, you'd think they'd want to stand up for the people. I mean, these are the same women who support a socialist dictator in Venezuela who's effectively starved his people. They are actually mad that Evo Morales was ousted in Bolivia, another socialist dictator. They blame the U.S. for all of it. They blame the U.S. for everything. I mean, they seem to be so blinded by hate for President Trump that they are willing to side with any repressive, horrible dictator over the United States. The radicals are now united by what's not American, and what's not American must somehow, therefore, be good. The bottom line is that Ilhan Omar and her likes are united by their resentment towards American foreign policy. My next guest, a Democrat, he says their so-called BS anti-imperialist agenda, and I quote here, is not just anti-Trump, but anti-American. Here to explain what he means is Democrat Aramesh, also joining us here tonight. Gulf Partners CEO Bartle Bull. He's the founder of the only American-run all-Iraq investment fund. Good to have you both here. Ari, you know, you're saying as a Dem some pretty aggressive stuff. You're annoyed with Omar. You're annoyed with the squad. You say they're blinded by hate for American policies. Explain.
I am interested in a strong American foreign policy. I'm interested in a foreign policy that protects American interests and American national security first and foremost. I don't care if even someone like President Trump, with whom I disagree on everything, let's put it this way, even a broken clock could be right twice a day. He spoke up, whatever his motives are, he spoke up about Iran. His Secretary of State have spoken up about Iran. My party, the party of FDR, the party of Truman, the party of Jack Kennedy, the party that fought the Cold War, fought World War II, the party is not silent. It has been 105 hours that the Islamic regime in Iran has cut off internet, has created this wall around the people. And it took, Bernie Sanders a couple days too late to come out and make a little announcement. Ilhan Omar hasn't said a thing. AOC hasn't said a thing. Rashida Tlaib hasn't said a thing. And the list goes on and on and on. Tulsi Gabbard, that's probably the worst case scenario here. Someone who goes to Syria, meets with the butcher of Damascus, a man who's a war criminal. And she refused the other day. She refused to say that whether Assad is a war criminal. She said, well, we have the International Criminal Court for that. That is simply disgusting. I want a party that stands up for liberty and it stands up for American values, and a liberal. As liberals with capital L, we should stand up for freedom. We should help the Iranian people. At least we should voice our support for people who are getting shot on the streets with live ammunition by thugs of Ayatollah Khamenei, by the thugs of the IRGC, and by the thugs of Qasem Soleimani.
Listen, I appreciate you saying all that, because that's not an easy position to take nowadays as a member of the Democratic Party. I mean, because it seems as though they're so anti-Trump, and Bartle, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. They're so anti-Trump that they're united in this hate for Trump that suddenly all the other bad guys in the world seem like they're great. Because if they can say, oh, well, you know, Trump's sanctions are making life miserable for Venezuela or for Iran or for anywhere else, then somehow they're united in this hate with Iran against Trump.
Well, Trish, these are the same people so upset that the austere religious scholar Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi wasn't treated so nicely down in his tunnel. And all around the world, we have right now major foreign policy advances to our credit. And yet, here in this country, we have the spectacle of American politicians cheerleading these bloodstained anti-American gangsters. And of course, it's not nearly as crazy as it looks, because whether we're talking about the mere partisan cynicism of your Pelosi's and your Schiffs, or the genuine socialism of the Sanderses and the AOCs and the Ilhan Omars and so on, or our foes around the world, they all have one bogeyman and one threat, and that is American strength American freedom and America's market-based prosperity, all of which is embodied in this very American president, Donald Trump.
So let me go back to Ari for a second. Do you think that in some ways, I mean, I thought Fiona Hill had some very good comments today there in that testimony when she said that Vladimir Putin is getting exactly what he wants. I mean, he wanted to create this chaos right now, and it would have some effect on American foreign policy. Is that what effectively has happened? I mean, that this discontent from Ilhan Omar and other members of the squad and the Democratic Party that's not standing up for America's rights on the world stage and for, frankly, everybody else's rights on the world stage, is that what he wanted?
So when it comes down to President Trump's foreign policy, and I can sit here and criticize the man for days and days at a time. I don't think
I know. We know
he's
you don't
done
like
us any. But this segment is not about that. This segment is about my party, and I want my party. I want people whose hearts are in the right place, the leadership of the party, and to come out and at least make a public gesture. At least do not support publicly a thug like Nicolas Maduro. At least please do not come out. And when Trump a couple of years ago on this network, on Fox News, said, well, we have blood on our hands just like Russians. How disgusting was that? If I'm going to criticize Trump for his policy towards Russia, for his appeasement of Kim Jong-un and so on and so forth, I cannot do that without saying we got to stand up against the Islamic regime in Iran. We got to help the people in Venezuela.
Why don't they? I mean, what's really going
I think there's a
through their
litmus
head?
test now. I think with both the far left and the far isolationist right, there's a litmus test that whatever America does, foreign policy-wise, must be bad. Whatever America does must be bad. If we're supporting the Venezuelan civil society and protesters on the well, that must be bad. If America's supporting the Lebanese military against Hezbollah, well, that must be bad. The litmus test is we are an imperialist, whatever that means. We are an imperialist power. And you know what? Here's the thing. What's the alternative? America has been a force for good. Be it Trump, be it Obama, be it Bush, be it Clinton. You go back, has been a force for good. And alternative is what? Putin's Russia? The communist regime in China? You wait and see once those guys, if they ever take over, and see how much blood they will have on their hands. America has been a force for good. We should stand up for it.
Ari, thank you so much. Bartle, thank you so much, too. Candy joins me right now with a look at what's coming up at the top of the hour. Hello.